Alright, so this been out for a while now, and to the point where people are already putting out rumors for iOS 17. Not like what's going to be included with iOS 17, but rather Apple has already said that they will not be including as much in 17 as previous versions. So since that's the case, because they're putting their focus towards their VR headset, I'm just gonna cover the important changes that were made in iOS 16, and then I'll go over the things that I would like to see improvements on for iOS 17, even though it's unlikely to happen. But I'm gonna do it anyways because maybe someone from Apple will see this video and think about making the changes that I'd like to see. But with that said, let's go into the most important changes that were made to iOS 16. Alright, so for me, the biggest change that was made in iOS 16 was the ability to edit and delete messages. Okay, so for iOS 17, Apple has not announced any changes that they plan on making, but there's been some speculation that they will not be adding as many features as previous operating system versions because they are working on their new VR headset. There are a couple things that I would like to see them implement in iOS 17, and the first of those is the ability to leave a group chat on messages without requiring at least 4 people in the group chat. As you can see in this picture, the leave this conversation button is grayed out, and there's only 2 people in here, which I'm not even sure how that's possible, because if there was ever a third person in a group chat, which would qualify as a group chat, then nobody can leave because there's only 3 people in there. So not sure how this picture is even possible because there's only 2 people, so it shouldn't even count as a group chat. But either way, like I said, the button is grayed out, so you couldn't leave anyway. You can see in the picture that there's a hide alerts slider that the arrow is pointing to, and while you could do that if you're having this problem where you can't leave group chats, it doesn't really solve the issue at hand, where if you opened up the Messages app, you would still have messages appear. It just wouldn't pop up as a notification, or it wouldn't ring on your phone because you would hide alerts. So while it would make things a little bit more convenient, it wouldn't solve the underlying issue. Here's a post that was made back in 2020, where a person had this issue, except they had it in 2 separate times, where one, they were in a 4-person group and the lead this conversation was grayed out then. This isn't supposed to happen because even Apple says that you are supposed to leave conversations that have at least 4 people, but I guess for him, like, it doesn't work. And I'm currently in group conversations with at least 4 people, and those I'm able to leave no problem. But then his second occasion is with 3 people, where it's him and then 2 other people, and it's the same thing where you can't leave it for whatever reason, and he wants to do so, and he said that turning notifications off, so doing that hide alert thing from the other picture, just wouldn't work for him, because it's just not a viable solution to this issue. But this was made back in 2020, and it even has 1881 people also thinking, like, why is this a thing? Like, we should be able to leave group chats if there are only 3 people. There are a couple of other things that I would want to see addressed in iOS 17, and they're kind of really similar in pretty much any aspect. But the first one is or rather the next one, is to be able to change text, whether it's like on a message bar or in like a URL bar, to make it easy to edit that text. But before I do that, I should mention that I'm not running iOS 16 in the recording because I was having Bluetooth and battery draining issues with iOS 16. So just to keep in mind that even though this is supposed to be about iOS 16, I'm not running it because I experienced too many bugs with iOS 16. Okay, so this is just an example, a quick one, of why the texting UI on iPhone sucks. This is on an iPhone 11 running 15.6. And as you can see, I have some highlighted text here. Normally you probably wouldn't need to do this, but just for example, for experimenting purposes, I highlighted the text and I filled in the rest of it with random stuff. And as you can see, I cannot tap anywhere in the text dialog to go to that location. So no matter where I tap, this thing will pop up that will have these options, but there's no way that I can just tap somewhere and go to that location and stop it from highlighting the whole text. So I feel like this is really annoying because on my other phone this isn't really a problem, but on here it's like, why can I not just go to where I'm trying to tap? Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. The other improvement that I would want to see in iOS 17 is the keyboard, because it's just not a good time, and like there are so many posts about how the iPhone keyboard sucks, and as someone who uses both iPhone and Android, I can say that the experience on Android is definitely a notch above iPhone in terms of typing and just the overall, like, changing certain words and deleting words and editing words. Just everything is just a little bit more fluid on Android. Now, if you're experiencing issues with the default iPhone keyboard, then I would recommend installing Gboard, because from my experience it's been a little bit better than the default iPhone keyboard. By no means perfect, but it is a little bit better, and the worst that can happen is that if you find that you are using it and it's not to your expectations and it turns out to being worse than the default iPhone keyboard, then you can just switch back, but I definitely think it's worth giving a shot. I don't expect Apple to be making any of these improvements, mostly because not enough people have complained about them, but since they are putting most of their effort towards making a VR headset, hopefully it won't be a meme. But anyways,